Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased that the Prime Minister mentioned what happened in Jallalabad and the issues of the massacre at Amritsar 100 years ago. I think the people, in memory of those that lost their lives and the brutality of what happened, deserve a full, clear and unequivocal apology for what took place on that occasion. And I join the Prime Minister and yourself, Mr. Speaker, in welcoming Sarah Davies to her appointment. I'm sure she's going to be absolutely brilliant. I remember the day she started work in the House, and she's done incredibly well. And also, Mr. Speaker, I welcome my honourable friend, the new member for Newport West, who's here today, who is, I believe, a very worthy successor to the late Paul Flynn. Today, Mr. Speaker, marks the 21st anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, a defining moment in Irish history which allowed peace to prevail. It was a great achievement, and I pay tribute to the work done by the Labour government at that time, as well as those on all sides of Ireland, north and south, and of this House, in achieving the crucial breakthrough in the peace process, which we have to ensure maintains. And as we continue to find discussions on a compromise over the Brexit deal that could shape our future economic relationship with Europe, protecting jobs, rights and our economy, we shouldn't forget communities across this country that have been abandoned by this government in the here and now. Official figures show that 9 of the 10 most deprived council areas in this country have seen cuts that are almost 3 times the average of any other council. Why has the Prime Minister decided to cut the worst off areas in our country more than the most well off?
Can I first of all say to the right honourable gentleman that he's right to reference the 21st anniversary of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, which was indeed an important moment in Northern Irish history and which has led to the peace that we have seen subsequently. And can I welcome the actions that were taken by politicians of all parties in this House and elsewhere to ensure that that peace was possible and that agreement was possible as well. Can I say to the honourable gentleman, in relation to the issue of council funding, actually councils do have more money available this year, a real terms increase. The right honourable gentleman voted against that money being available. But what we've also done is listen to councils, given them extra flexibility. For example, they've called for a long time to have the borrowing cap lifted so they could build more homes, and we've done exactly that. Listened to councils and given them what they wanted.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Speaker, the problem is that child poverty is rising. In councils with the highest levels of child poverty, over £1,000 per household has been taken in funding cuts in the last decade. In some of the wealthiest areas of our country, they've only lost £5. Take Swindon, for example, where Honda recently announced 3,500 job cuts. Child poverty is over 1/3 higher than it is in Surrey. Yet in Swindon, they will have lost £235 per household in government funding cuts, whereas a household in Surrey will see more money from central government. Can the Prime Minister explain why Swindon faces cuts while Surrey gets more money?
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, actually what we see in terms of spending power per home is that the average spending power per home for the most deprived local authorities is over 20% higher than for the least deprived local authorities. That's Conservatives delivering for local councils.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, homelessness is 3 times higher in Swindon than in Surrey, and today we learn that 2/3 of councils do not have the funding necessary to comply with the Homeless Reduction Act. In Stoke-on-Trent, the council has lost £640 per household, yet child poverty is more than double the rate in Surrey, which has seen an increase in funding. Does the Prime Minister think that areas with the highest levels of child poverty do deserve to be facing the largest cuts in their budgets?
Yes or no?
What I think is that members across this House who are concerned about child poverty should take action to ensure that we're helping families to get more money into their pockets. It is this It is this government that's frozen fuel duty. It's this government that's introduced the national living wage. It's this government that's given lower paid workers the highest increase. And it's this government that on Saturday saw 32 million households see a tax cut. If the right honourable gentleman really wants to help people out there with money in their pockets, he should be backing these measures by the government instead of voting against them.
Jeremy Corbyn.
The reality is that under this government 500,000 more children have gone into relative poverty, and in Stoke-on-Trent alone 4,000 food bank parcels were handed out to children last year. And if it wasn't bad enough, it's about to get rather worse. Tory proposals on the new funding formula for councils will make poorer areas even poorer. They're removing the word deprivation from the funding criteria. In a phrase that George Orwell would have been very proud of, they've called this the fairer funding formula. Areas like Stoke will lose out even more. Can the Prime Minister explain why she wants to give less funding to the most deprived parts of our country?
No, that's not what we're doing. What we are doing is ensuring that we have a fairer funding formula across local authorities, but we're also ensuring that we're putting more money and making more money available for local authorities, for those local authorities to spend. But let's just see what we see from council after council up and down the country. If people want to ensure they have good local services and are paying less in council tax, that's what they see under Conservative councils. There's a clear message. If you want to pay less council tax and have good local services, vote Conservative.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately for the Prime Minister, the truth is when Labour controls local councils, households pay on average £350 less than those living in Tory areas. The average council tax per dwelling in Labour council areas is £1,169 compared to £1,520 in Tory council areas. The Society of Local Authority Chief Executives called the fair funding formula decision perverse. And even before this new formula kicks in, councils are losing out now. A Conservative council leader said earlier this year, we are really short of money. I mean, there is no money for him to run his services. What does the Prime Minister say to local authorities struggling to make ends meet while her government continues to underfund the vital services that they deliver?
We have, over the years, asked local councils to take some difficult decisions in relation to living within our means. Why did we have to do that? We had to do that because we were left the biggest deficit in our peacetime history by the last Labour government.
Jeremy Corbyn.
The political choice made to impose austerity on local government has hit the poorest and worst off, the worst in every one of our communities across the country. Since 2010, 50 pence of every pound has been stripped from local authorities by her government. That is the reality of what life is like for those trying to deliver services. Mr. Speaker, the evidence is clear. The Tories have abandoned communities across the country. They've left towns and cities to fend for themselves after 9 years of vindictive, damaging austerity. 1,000 fewer Sure Start centres. One of the greatest achievements of the last government. 760 fewer youth centres and a social care system in absolute crisis. Child poverty is up. Violent crime is up, and homelessness and rough sleeping is also up. This government, Mr. Speaker, stands for tax cuts for the richest and swinging cuts for the rest. Will the Prime Minister now admit that far from tackling the burning injustices she talked about, her government's cruel and unfair policies have pushed councils to the brink and left those just about managing not being able to manage at all? That is her legacy.
I'm proud to lead a government that's seen more children in good schools, more doctors, more jobs, lower borrowing, lower unemployment, lower higher taxes. That's Conservatives delivering across the country for everyone. And what would we see with the Labour government under the Right Honourable Gentleman? Destroying our defences, abandoning our allies, billions more in borrowing, fewer opportunities and higher taxes for everyone. That's a Labour future and we will never let it happen.